If you listen to American TurboGrafx 16 fans, they'll tell you that Legendary Axe 2 was just some game that NEC had lying around that they slapped the title onto in order to tie it to one of the system's bigger successes. Well, even in Japan, Ankoku Densetsu is considered to be a sequel to Makyo Densetsu. Never mind that the games play completely differently, have a different story, feature different enemies, come from different developers. Yeah, there's no real connection between them. The original Makyo Densetsu was an action game where the mechanics were pretty much taken directly from Astyanax. You had an attack power-up that slowly grew over time, and of course your main weapon was an axe. On Ankoku Densetsu, the action is much more straightforward. You swing the weapon whenever you like, do a bunch of platforming, and there's 3 different weapons. The plot of the game is that 2 princes get into a fight over who will rule. The younger prince loses and is cast down, but he has a sword, so he'll just fight his way back up. The path to take the throne consists of 7 stages, the first half of which are linear affairs, but then toward the end, they become elaborate mazes, and you'll have to feel your way through them. Button 2 attacks, button 1 jumps, and if you press start, then you'll throw a bomb. Bombs damage everything on the screen once they impact with something, and that makes them useful in a lot of situations. Unfortunately, you're not the only person who has them, and if an enemy throws one, then you'll need to destroy it before it hits the ground. There are 3 weapons at your disposal in Ankoku Densetsu, but the weapon power-ups have a special property. Every time you collect one, you also increase the power of all weapons by 1 level. Increasing the weapon level increases the damage and reach of your attack. Maximum power is level 5, and if you're ever defeated, then you go back to level 1. Your default weapon when you start the game is the sword, so the only way to see level 1 for the other weapons is to get killed while you're wielding it. That sword that you start with is the balanced middle weapon, a good choice for pretty much any situation. It has decent reach. As it levels up, it gets an arc attack in front of it, and that makes it good for intercepting enemy attacks and knocking anything out of the way. If you want more power, then you can use the axe. It does a lot more damage than the sword, but it also has a lot less reach. However, as it powers up, it does get that same kind of wave attack that the sword does. The axe is mostly good for chopping through some very strong enemies, but in situations where there's a lot going on or you have to intercept attacks, it's not the best choice. The third weapon is the chain, which attacks fast, does low damage, and goes straight in front of you. However, this weapon can attack at an angle if you press up. Powering up the chain makes it grow longer, but you'll notice you don't get the sweeping arc. The chain is pretty much the worst weapon to use. Though that said, it's not impossible to find places where you can use it effectively. There's one more method that you can use to attack, and that's jumping on people's heads. This doesn't do a whole lot of damage, and some enemies are completely immune to it, but there are points in the game, particularly some bosses, where it's very useful to take advantage of this. The item drops are consistent in Ankoku Densetsu. The same enemy will drop the same power-up every time. That means it's possible to plan your way through the stages, know which enemies will drop which weapons, and when you should switch. The other items that can drop from enemies are moons that restore 1 point of your health, suns that fully restore the health bar, and stars that increase the maximum length of that health bar by 1, though the extra health goes away if you die. Enemies will also drop bombs for you, and if they drop a Roman numeral, that's an extra life, or 7 extra lives if it's the Roman numeral 7. And that's all there is to playing Ankoku Densetsu. It's a very simple, very straightforward game. I found that Japanese players weren't especially fond of this one, and in particular, people cited the ending as a big part of it. I won't give spoilers, partially because I could only get to the final boss door while I was recording. I'll just say that the game has a bleaker ending than you might expect from something in this era. Although, a bleak ending is appropriate for a game whose title means The Dark Legend. My own feelings on Ankoku Densetsu are a lot more positive. I really like the environment and monster designs, and I think there's a lot of cool stuff that happens when they come together. Okay, the maze-like final stages aren't nearly as much fun, but that's not the entire game. Things like the skeletal monsters bursting through the walls so that their limbs can get at you, or scaling the enormous tower of collapsing platforms, is all pretty memorable. The platforming is an interesting challenge too, since jumping utilizes your momentum, and you can do some cool tricks if you're on a moving platform. Most of the stages have some kind of memorable set piece to them, some clever trick that you'll have to figure out how to deal with. Ankoku Densetsu is peak 1990 action platform design. If I have one really solid complaint about the game, it's that it is kind of easy. I don't think I've really played this in 25 years, and I made it to the door to the final boss without too much trouble. The biggest complication here is that if you die, you lose all of your power-ups, and you are probably relying on those. If you wanted a barbarian hero game on the PC Engine, then this is a lot better than any of the other alternatives from 1990.